2025. This is the meeting of the Rules, Confirmations, and Public Elections Committee. I am detecting quorum with myself, Vice Chairs Cash, Council Members Truffle, Rutherford, and Weiner present. Pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated section 844.112, time is reserved for public comment at the beginning, but there is nobody signed up for public comment here today. So we will go ahead and move into our agenda. I do have a consent agenda that includes items 1, 3, 4, and 5 as far as resolutions. Is there anything that anybody wishes to remove from consent? Seeing none, I will go ahead and read these items into the record. So first we have RS 2025-1033, a resolution honoring the life of Larissa A. Jackson, sponsor Style. RS and as well as far as quorum, also detecting Councilmember Toombs present. Moving forward with the consent agenda, we have item number 3, RS 2025-1034, a resolution recognizing the 60th anniversary of the Metropolitan Human Relations Commission. RS 2025-1035, a resolution recognizing February 2025 as Black History Month in Nashville and Davidson County. RS 2025-1036, a resolution recognizing February 7th, 2025 as National Black HIV/AIDS Awareness Day in Nashville and Davidson County. With the reading of the consent agenda, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and properly seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Next, we have agenda item number 2, which is RS 2025-1033, a resolution commemorating the 30th anniversary of the Sister Cities Partnership between Nashville, Davidson County, and Belfast, Northern Ireland, sponsors Bradford and Rutherford. We do have a late filed substitute on this. Rutherford. Can you talk to us about the nature of the late file?
Sure. The late file is basically because we ended up getting language from Sister Cities, their approved language for the legislation, and needed to add it to this. It came in after the deadline, and so it is the language that that they wish to use. It was originally written without that language to get filed, but the reason for the substitute and then is for the new language that's approved by them, and then the late nature is just simply because it came in late. But the reason we need to go ahead and move with it is because we want to be able to present it at the next meeting. There's a delegation from Belfast that is coming to Nashville, and so we want to obviously do good by them and commemorate the 30th anniversary of the relationship between the two cities.
Perfect. And you mentioned that the delegation is coming to Nashville. Do you know when that is?
The exact dates off the top of my head I do not know, but I know it is this month. It is in February, late February. I was on the part of the Nashville delegation that went to Belfast late last year, and so I look forward to working with them as they come and visit Nashville, and we want to be able to present this to them.
Okay, perfect. That makes perfect sense. I will say my one, because recognizing that obviously we want to be able to present it to them when they are present here in Nashville. Sorry, just pulling up the calendar really quickly, because if they would be here sometime after the 18th, I think it would be appropriate for us to simply try and defer and pass instead of suspending the rules for the nature of a late file, but without that information. I guess it's fair to presume. Yes, Councilman Weiner.
I think this is innocuous enough that a suspension of the rules is a kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe Councilmember Bradford's intention is to do a presentation at the next council meeting.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Makes more sense. Okay, perfect. Well, hearing the nature of the late filed substitute, any further discussion? All right, those in favor of the late filed say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? Got 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for the late filed substitute. So we are now on the bill as substituted. Any discussion? Seeing none, all right, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank you.
Okay, next we are on bills on second reading. This is item number 6, BL 2025-688, an ordinance to amend Chapter 2.147 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws regarding the Nashville Music, Entertainment, and Film Commission by sponsors Sepulveda, Gad, Prepti, Toombs, Evan Siegel, and Vo. Sandra is part of this committee. Do we know where she is right now?
She's, I believe, in Northwest Library Center.
Yeah, we'll roll this to the hill. Alright, so moving forward, we are now on boards and commission appointees and nominees. Candidates in this category will appear before the Rules Confirmation and Public Elections Committee to determine the relative qualifications of the candidates. First up, we have the Metropolitan Development and Housing Authority, Housing Agency Board appointment of Frank Stevenson for a term expiring on February 4th, 2030. Mr. Stevenson, thank you so much for being here. Would you like a parking validation?
Yes, please.
Okay. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
I am.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to here today?
No.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
So I'm a Nashville native. I grew up here in the city, and I grew up in the J.C. Napier University Core Housing Projects. And the opportunity to serve on this board, which has as a mission of creating quality, affordable housing for the citizens of this city, is paramount to the opportunities that it gave me. A single mom, and we wouldn't have been able to have the quality of life that we had if not for our time in the university courts. And so, opportunity to pay it forward and create policies that continue to embrace those opportunities.
I can appreciate that. Thank you. Something that I'm curious about is what are some of the barriers that you see to affordable housing in Nashville that you could potentially address through your time serving on this board?
Yeah, I mean, Nashville is still an impressive city where people want to move and want to live, and they're willing to pay a lot of money to be here and to be in these spaces. And so they're not making more land in the city, and so we have to be very intentional in terms of just carving out spaces to make sure we take care of some of the least and those who are working to want to stay in this city, and our working class and our police officers and our school teachers, and we don't want to price them out of the opportunity to be in this city. And I think creative ways that have gone forward, like the pilot program and other programs, continue to assure the opportunities move forward.
Anything from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? Got 6 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, next we have the Hospital Authority appointment of, oh goodness, I am so sorry, Dr. Chike? Could you say that? Nzedwe?
Yes.
Nzere?
Yes.
Okay. For a term expiring on January 1st, 2027. Dr. Nzedwe, would you like a parking validation?
Yes.
Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes, sir.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to here today?
No.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
I want to serve on the board because Nashville General has been good to me. My mother had cataract surgery twice there, and I have seen the hospital grow and I know that it's every great city deserves a good public hospital. In New York, you have Fairview Hospital. Atlanta, you have Grady. And I feel like the hospital is an asset. And I want to be able to work in the board to provide high-level guidance to make sure that it continues to thrive.
Thank you. What are some of the challenges that you see with the hospital as it currently stands, and how you hope to address some of those?
So the hospital does a lot of great work. I think the biggest challenge is resources. It's like resources are limited, but it does a great job with the resources it gets. So at the same time, the hospital is doing a great job serving Metro employees. So that way, that helps the resources of the hospital. But then there's also the uninsured. And the state of Medicaid in our state is such that the uninsured keep increasing. And the hospital's cutting that. So that resource challenge will be there. But I think the hospital will continue to evolve and manage it. I think the issue of the uninsured is a national problem.
And one of the things that I'm really interested in, I generally try and approach things from a health and health policies perspective, and understanding how health policy interplays with almost every area of public policy, specifically health education policy. So with Nashville General being one of the teaching hospitals, I'd love to be able to see Nashville General also working more with the health department on health education throughout our communities, because as we know, access to health care is a major social determinant of health, and so having access to doctors and to folks who are educating them about the importance of healthcare who look like the community, I think is incredibly important. So I can especially appreciate your willingness to serve and the ability to serve Nashville General. Any questions from the committee?
I have a question. Hello. My name's Erin, and I'm the chair of the Public Health and Safety Committee. And so I'm going to start going down kind of asking for information related to some of the equipment that is not working currently at the hospital, if that's having an impact on serving our unhoused population, in particular during the winter related to hypothermia. And so this is new information, like I've just emailed Dr. Webb, sending him a list of all my questions. And so I just want to know that you'll be an open participant to kind of not only talking about the future of the hospital related to like what is the plan for building something in the future, but then also like how are we making sure that the equipment that we have today is still meeting the needs to be able to take care of folks.
Excellent question. The Joint Commission actually came to the hospital. I know this side because I'm also on the Medical Executive Committee of the hospital. Mm-hmm. So the hospital did very well during the Joint Commission visit. What you just mentioned was one area where they needed more explanation, because some of the equipment had some cracks, or they thought some of the scalpels were not sharp enough, and they gave time to the hospital, and Dr. Webb, Dr. Brown, they worked tirelessly. They fixed all of that. But I think it's something that has to be continuously monitored, especially with the cold weather. We're seeing a scenario where you're getting more of the unhoused population coming in, because of flus and stuff. And so there's an uptick in utilization, and that's where there are any equipments that are out of whack, that's when you're going to be caught surprised. But Dr. Webb and the team are working rigorously to manage that, but it's going to be an ongoing thing.
Because there's another kind of component to, and there's overlap with like the Office of Homeless Services, which also kind of falls under public health and safety and the hospital, in that like with our unhoused population, both both entities experience issues, you know, with people coming into the facilities that don't have appropriate clothing. And then, like in the hospital in particular, like once it's removed, as you know, like if there's not anything that's available for them, then basically, you know, here's your scrubs and, you know, then you're gone. And so there's a similar challenge, I think, with OHS and like our cold weather overflow shelter. But that's another thing I want to bring forward, because I had a resident who worked for the hospital that was doing clothing drives in her neighborhood, kind of illustrating that, which is how I first learned about it. So.
So the hospital done that clothing drive,
Yeah.
and they continue. In fact, if you take the elevators, you see reminders where you can drop off warm clothing for people.
Yeah. So I want to see how we can amplify more of those opportunities. So thank you for your willingness to serve.
Chair Toombs?
Good afternoon, Dr. Nzewe.
Yes.
Nzewe. How long have you worked with Nashville General?
So I came to Nashville 2005. So I worked at Nashville General from 2005 to 2015. And then I got a leadership position with Dignity Health in Las Vegas. And I went out there, worked during the pandemic. I was on the Nevada Governor's Committee that helped manage which casinos were shut down and when. But Mehari called me back and said, hey, we need a strong chairman of medicine. Would you care to come back? I said yes, and I came back. As I came back, I'm the chief of service for the Nashville General, as well as the chairman of medicine.
And what does that mean, being chief of service?
Chief of service means that if a new physician the hospital wants to hire a new physician, Dr. Webb and the team let me know, and I check into the background of the provider, make sure that they're qualified, make sure there are no lawsuits or bad stuff. And I also monitor the quality numbers for them, like how long it takes to get an appointment to see the asthma doctor, work with the hospital to make sure that there's increased access. And then if we have a patient who's uninsured, but they came in with pneumonia, we treat the pneumonia, that we send them out safely, either with enough medications to eradicate for the rest of the days, or have a community pharmacy where they can pick up what's left.
What do you see the role of the hospital authority in terms of Nashville General? Like, how active of a role do you believe the hospital authority has in the management of the hospital?
I think the hospital authority, they have a critical role, and based on what I see so far, they do it well. They provide high-level guidance and also let the CEO and the management team manage the day-to-day operations. So that they are also as stewards of public resources. They can question what's spent and how it's spent, make sure that the public, the city of Nashville, gets good value for its money, make sure that there's good access, make sure that the quality is good, and then just make sure that regulatory government requirements are being maintained. That's how I see it. But the day-to-day operation is still with I think should still be with the CEO and their management team. Mm-hmm. But the board provides high-level guidance and compliance, make sure that regulations are followed.
And I apologize, Dr. Nzewe, I didn't introduce myself. I'm Councilwoman Quante Toombs. I'm also the chair of the Minority Caucus, and Nashville General Hospital has always, long before I even got on the council, has been a priority for the Minority Caucus, and we've always made sure to the best that we can that it has the resources that it needs and that we advocate strongly for it. And I want to address the elephant in the room because you are employed by Mehari, and Mehari and Nashville General, the leadership, haven't had the best relationship. And so if you're selected for the board, how do you plan to manage that relationship? Do you feel like you would be able to put the the interests of the hospital first.
Yes, because I have also been on both sides. I was the chief medical officer of the hospital for 5 years. And I was on the team with Harry Jacobson that recruited Dr. Webb. So I maintain a high level of, not really detachment, but balance. Like, I'm still the chief of service of the hospital. I have to work with Dr. Webb every month. We have medical executive committee. I will introduce him at the meeting, or before the meeting, I'll ask him, what do you want to discuss? What are the percolating issues that you want to bring up? So I'm used to navigating both sides, and to be in the board, you have to have that type of diplomacy and balance and say what's best for the patients, what's best for the hospital, what's best for the city. But I also enjoy teaching, so I believe there's a physician shortage. So my job as a teacher, I also take seriously. So I teach medical students, I teach residents. I also do outreach. I'm always there when we have health fairs around the city. We've done some in Antioch, we've done some over Jefferson Street. And I and Dr. Moore, we used to organize the Music City Marathon. And the emergency room ran it from Nashville to home. So I think that part comes easy to me because I've been on both sides and I'm continuously on both sides.
Thank you, Doctor. Chair, I did have a question for our, do we have our legal counsel? Oh, there. Our legal counsel. Because there's contracts between Nashville General and Meharry, is there a conflict to have a Meharry employee on the board?
I don't think that it's necessarily a conflict, but the board member would be required to not vote on items on which there may be a direct or indirect financial interest. So, the board member would be required, and they would be advised of this by their counsel, but they would be required to recuse themselves from those types of votes.
Thank you. That's all I have, Chair.
And if I sense a conflict, I will reach out to the chair of the board, on the legal team on the board as well, because normally you will get the items to be discussed like some days in advance. So if there's any perceived or potential conflict, I would either recuse myself or ask the chair and the legal team.
Thank you, Dr. Nazari.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And so this is actually for Ms. Darby. Insofar as placing somebody on this particular board, and this board is charged with oversight and support of Nashville General, and the relationship, and you're obviously integrally involved in both.
Yeah.
Is there an issue insofar as hamstringing if that's even a good word, but hamstringing that board that for most of their votes that engage these two, he's not going to be, he can be a voice, but he can't be a vote. So are we hamstringing that board in putting someone on the board that on really important topics that they're here to manage are going to be an issue? Am I making sense?
Yes, I think it depends on the facts and circumstances that are presented for any particular vote or any matter that the board is considering. But the legal counsel for the Hospital Authority Board will be advising the board members as to their ethical responsibilities. And, when you come before this committee, you are required to have already agreed or read the ethics rules that you must comply with. So the potential is there for there to be lots of recusals in this particular instance.
And I guess, Chair, that's my concern, is that we're going to, and I think having somebody that has been on both sides of the fence is super, super helpful. My concern is strictly that we're going to be holding their feet to the fire when we're putting somebody on the board that can't vote.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm going to throw out there because I think you're a great candidate.
Does anybody from the mayor's office or from the hospital wish to speak to this nomination or to some of the circumstances or concerns that have been raised?
Sure, I would say that, thank you, Mr. Chair. Dave Rosenberg with the mayor's office, that most of the votes at the hospital authority are not Meharry related. And if you look at safety net hospitals in other cities, Grady and Atlanta, for example, there's frequently a representative or somebody with experience, who's actively experienced with the Associated Teaching Hospital as part of that board. So this is pretty common among other cities as well.
That's good. Good answer.
Anything further from the committee?
I think,
Yes, Chair.
thank you, I'm sorry, I didn't start speaking without being recognized. I think the only thing, kind of piggybacking on what Councilmember Toombs was asking about, kind of the relationship between Meharry and Metro General, is really, I think, from a, like, I'm on the periphery of, like, what's happening at the hospital, and of course there's a lot of, like, PR about new buildings and everything, but what really, I think, enables and garners trust in the community to continue to be as supportive as it has always been is, you know, positive working relationships. And so I guess I look at you as like you're an anomaly in that you have worked for Metro and Meharry, and, you know, is there opportunity to use your relationships to kind of bring more parties together for them to solve these bigger picture issues at the top. And so that's how I kind of look at it a little bit differently than Councilmember Weiner, is that I feel like that is probably the relationship dynamic, I think, is one of the most urgent things that has to be solved. Because everything else, I think, fits kind of under that relationship. Our status as having an excellent safety net hospital, Meharry's need to be able to have kind of that index hospital relationship and equipment needs and everything else, it's like, let's solve the elephant in the room. And I kind of feel like maybe you would be kind of a conduit to make that happen, if that makes sense.
You're very correct. You know, I'm used to, like I said, working on both sides, but as a board member, my primary responsibility will be to Nashville General and the city, and saying what's in the best interest of the hospital, what's in the best interest of the patients that we care for. That's kind of my guiding light, as I say. But if someone asks me, well, how can we win favor with the hospital administration on an item, I can provide that because, like I said, every month I work with Dr. Webb and the hospital on medical executive committee strategy, what's new. I can talk about what works, but as a board member, it's more about focusing on the hospital and
Staying
what
in your
the
lane.
city needs, what the patients need. That's kind of how
Yeah.
my guiding light with that.
Thank you for reiterating
Anything further from the committee? Seeing none, we've got a motion to approve. Those in favor?
that.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Public Library Board reappointment of Kathy Varney for a term expiring on April 6, 2032. Thank you so much for being here. Would you like a parking
I
validation?
would, thank you so much.
Perfect. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes, I am.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being reappointed to here today?
No, I do not.
So tell us a little bit about why you want to continue serving.
Well, because I love the library and I love the work that I get to do for the library. I have served on the Library Foundation Board and have been a part, the latest thing we're a part of is a program called Begin Bright, which is trying to raise $20 million to bring an early literacy program to the city of Nashville through the library. So I'm deeply involved with everything that happens in the library, actually, and have been for years, even before I was on the board.
Tell us more about Begin Bright.
Okay.
Would love to hear.
I will, really
Yes,
quickly.
Yes.
Begin Bright, when Kent Oliver was still director, the senior leadership decided that early literacy would be a top priority of the library in their strategic plan. the library, as you all know, is deeply involved already in early literacy, and we do bringing books to life, puppet shows, all kinds of things. But it's not population level effective in that we can't hire 400 librarians to be in 400 licensed daycare centers in the city of Nashville. And so there was a study done by Lisa Wilshire under the auspices of the library. This is a library program, not a foundation program, where she studied three things: everything that was happening in daycare centers, childcare centers in Nashville, and what the need is for early literacy, what are the best practices in the country, and what the library is already doing. And from that came a program that has not been officially, we're not in daycare centers yet, not been officially launched yet, called Begin Bright. And it does three things. It's very simple. One, it's going to bring a little library, a real little library, cart, books, the whole 9 yards, into every daycare center in the city. We're starting with licensed daycare centers, but then we'll go to the Miss Polly's of the city, filled with books in both English and in Spanish. That's the first thing. The second is bringing training for daycare teachers and parents in English and in Spanish, and later in the top 5 languages in the city via an app that's kind of Instagram-like. I mean, we are creating it right now, the library is, but it's engaging, you know what I mean? To basically teach parents how to help their children learn to be reading ready, not reading, but reading ready by age 5, and to teach daycare teachers how to help their children be reading ready. And then the library has retained Vanderbilt prenatal to 3, Dr. Cynthia Osborne, to study this program for 4 years to prove the model. It was determined by the library that thought that the price of the program for the first 4 years would be $7 million. A committee that I'm chairing decided we should raise $20 million, $7 million to get the program up and going, and $13 million to endow it, because you can't. The city of Philadelphia in the 1990s did something very similar, and they started it, it worked, and then they had to stop it because they didn't have enough money to continue to bring in the books. So I'm proud to say that actually, and this shocks me more than it shocks anybody, that in 11 months we've raised $20 million. And we're raising the bar of how much we're going to raise. But they will begin the study in child care centers in August. And so we'll be rolling out the little carts with books into child care centers. And it has to start slow. I mean, there's only so many staff, but we'll be in 30 centers I think probably in June. And then the next group will have 60 centers, and then the next group 60 centers, and continue to go on from there.
That's amazing.
And there's no other library in the country that is doing this.
Yes.
So just like our Limitless Libraries program at Nashville Public Library, we will be yet again setting the bar higher than anybody else in the country is, and I am so proud of that.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's something that I'm super excited about. I've always said that early childhood literacy is something that's really important to me, especially as a kid who didn't like reading growing up, who it made me feel stupid. But now here I am. So just like keep at it, keep reading. One thing that I do want to address with the library board is the situation with the past search for the library director. Had some hiccups, had some bumps, and
You're kind.
Yes, and so I want to ask you sort of how you view that process, having previously worked and knowing the issues with Metro procurement, but how you view the board can operate moving forward, trying to have some permanency within that position, because we've got an interim who's been serving 3-4 years now, and so if you
not quite that long, but yeah.
But if you just want to just generally
I will,
address,
and I will. I can't speak for every member of the board other than discussion that we've had in board meetings, and in board meeting in December, there's a tremendous, personally I have, and I know other board members have, tremendous amount of concern about the lack of stability that we're giving NPL employees by continuing to have an interim, although it's totally fine in the city of Nashville, and we've got great interims that have served as directors for a long time. I think that the staff deserve to know who the library director is and feel certainty and security in that. I don't know what is on, because I don't think it's been published yet, our next agenda, but I think the discussion of whether Terry Luke continues as interim, continues, or becomes permanent, or we start another search will probably be discussed at the next board meeting, because it was discussed at the last board meeting.
Councilmember.
Just curious, great program, $7 million, how many children does that affect, or how many children will that support?
You know, it doesn't exactly equate that way, and I can't tell you exactly. I know that in the first 4 years, the goal is to be in every single licensed child care center in the city of Nashville.
Okay.
And then after that, to go, as I said, to the unlicensed. And there's also, I mean, there are children in all kinds of places that aren't child care centers before age 5.
I didn't know if there was a cost per child on
I don't think,
average
no,
or
it's not a
anything.
cost per child. And I will say that one of the things that was not anticipated in putting together the budget is that Dolly Parton came forth and has donated all of the books for all 400 daycare centers in English and in Spanish for all 4 years. And as you can imagine, you don't give a daycare center a book and think you had that book. That book gets mighty loved. And so they have to be, you know, refreshed.
So you have 400 daycare centers that should be supported? Is that-
Well, there's more than that, but we will start with the licensed daycare. Now that, I'm saying 400, it changes, as I'm sure you're aware.
Sure.
Daycare centers open and close, but there are about 400 licensed daycare centers in the city.
Will any of the books go in local community centers?
Well, once we've got the mechanism of getting the carts and daycares to sign up and all that goes with that is a little bit complex. But once we've done that, we definitely need to be in community centers. We definitely need to be in the, Weaver Domestic Violence Center. There are a lot of children who spend days there. I mean, there are lots of places where there are children and there need to be books. But I think when we endow it, there will be ample, of course, my hope is that Dolly Parton will continue to give books, but there's no guarantee of that.
Great. Okay.
Anything?
Yes.
I think it's under your, the library's purview and the board's purview to talk about like out-of-county and fees for out-of-county residents that are using our libraries. Because 2023 I'd asked, for data because I butt up to Wilson County.
Right.
And there are not a huge amount of people, like 500 people, but we only charge $10.
I know it's not very
And
much.
it's kind of like, I feel like that's a, like Wilson County, surrounding counties, they're not paying us a lot of taxes other than sales, but they're going out of county, they're coming here to work, going out of county. Is there opportunity to look at raising that fee a little bit?
That's
$10
interesting.
seems too low.
It has never been discussed at a board meeting, and well, our chair, Joyce Searcy, is here. Terry Luke is still out on medical leave, so Joyce came. It hasn't, in the time that I've been on the board, it has not been discussed, although I knew that it was kind of incredibly small.
Because it's kind of a value add
Yeah,
for
no,
them.
that's an interesting idea. You should pay for what you.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to hear,
Yeah.
like, if there's a study, and I hate to study
Right,
stuff,
no, I
but
know,
you
but I
what
know
I
what
mean,
you're
but
saying,
if there's
yeah.
like an analysis of like, what's usage like, does Williamson?
And what
come
other
in more
public
frequently?
libraries do.
Exactly, because I've only heard complaints about Wilson County libraries, but I also know that their taxes are not paying enough to be able to support the library standards that we have in Davidson, so.
Well, one of the issues that we have, and I'm gonna, this body has been so incredibly supportive and I think visionary in terms of what the library does for all of our citizens. And we've got beautiful libraries and we're building more libraries and we're doing everything to kind of make that civic living room look great in every single community. But our collections still suffer. And sometimes you wanna, you know, go to check out a book and I gotta wait 8 weeks if it's a popular book. And that's, money like that could go to making more books. Which is what we're all just trying to figure out how to do.
Anything further from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? 9 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, each of you. Thank you.
Okay, at this point, we're gonna go back in our agenda, and take up bills on second reading. We've got BL 2025-688, an ordinance to amend chapter 2.147 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws regarding the Nashville Music, Entertainment, and Film Commission by sponsors Paul Gad, Prepti, Toombs, Evan Siegel, and Vo. Councilmember Siegel, you are recognized to tell us about this bill.
Thank you, Chair. So this is one of the recommendations made by the working group. As a reminder, we have a working group that is looking at all of our boards and commissions, trying to look at how we can make them a little bit better, looking at the size, looking at the bylaws, having a uniform process altogether. And so this is the first board and commission that we're looking at. The next one you will see before you will be the Stormwater Commission. And so we have had legislation in regards to the working group in the past, not too long ago. So essentially what this legislation does is it shrinks the Entertainment Commission from 15 to 11 members. This was a recommendation by the working group. We have surveyed not just the commissioners, we have surveyed staff from that work with the different boards and commissions, and so looking at what works best, we came to the conclusion that between 7 and 11 members works best, and so this does shrink it down to 11 members. This would happen over time, so none of the commissioners will be losing their seats. This would happen gradually, right? This would also change the name, and this was a recommendation made by the commission itself, and so we did take that into the legislation. This also looks at the subcommittees. One of the concerns that we had is that the current way it is operating is it has subcommittees that are working and are making recommendations. We believe that anyone working on our boards and commissions need to go through the vetting process of coming before the Rules Committee and being vetted by this group and then voted on by the council as a whole. One of Council Member Stiles' concern was that there are not enough members on the commission itself to do this work. My argument is that when you look at other boards and commissions, you don't have someone from each specific field. You rotate them out, right? And that's how it's supposed to work. And when you have different groups of people present recommendations to subcommittees made up of committee members from those commissions, right? They present a recommendation, the subcommittee composed of those members bring that to the commission as a whole. That's how it usually works. And so we want to make sure that anyone working on subcommittees are vetted by this group. If that process needs to change, then I think that's a discussion that we need to have as a group. And then the other piece of it is changing the way the executive director is hired. So right now the commission is in charge of hiring the executive director. This would move that over to the mayor with having input from the commission itself. This is the way that we just did the newly formed Contract and Compliance Board, where the mayor has hiring power and the chair is allowed to be in the interviewing process. We know that we have had issues with boards and commissions and different departments when you don't have accountability. It brings the question of what experience do commissioners have with HR policies and, you know, different things. The argument has been, mayors change over time. The counter argument is commissioners also change over time. So same thing, but, so these are the primary changes within the legislation itself. So yeah.
So currently, there's members on subcommittees that are not one of the 15 members.
Yes.
No, sorry.
No?
No, that was what the commission.
Oh, they
that's
want
what
to
the,
add-
the style substitute would do.
They want to add it in the substitute of council member styles.
Okay, so what is it currently right now? If you're on a subcommittee, are you also on the commission, one of the 15?
Yes.
Okay, and so the proposed substitute that has not been moved yet would be able to pull just random people to serve on subcommittees that are not confirmed by this body? Yeah, no.
I didn't write that.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure like that I understood, because you can't have, like, I agree, you can't have people that are not vetted and not put onto the commission in some way, shape, form, or fashion, making recommendations to the commission that would possibly, it's like, well, who are you? So that's the way it is now. Subcommittee members are committee members, are commission members. Okay. Okay.
Before we move forward, can we grab council member styles?
Yeah, because I was gonna ask that, because I've got questions that she probably needs to answer.
Any questions on the main legislation in the meantime? Yes.
So, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. So there have been some emails that have come through regarding changes. Can you talk a little bit more about reducing the size? Because my understanding, the concern is that a lot of work went into identifying the different industries that needed to be on the commission, and that all of those industries need to have representation when decisions are made on the commission. Can you talk a little bit more why the working group decided that that wasn't necessary?
Yeah, in the past, there had been quorum issues. The chair is here, so the chair has stated that there are no more quorum issues, right? But quorum has been an issue for several boards that are around this size. Again, each industry cannot be represented on each board and commission. This is why we rotate, right? I gave the example in the previous committee. You look at the hospital authority, or you look at other boards. If you have, an OBGYN, if you have a pediatrician, you can't have each industry represented. It just doesn't work that way. You can't do it. If there is a specific argument, I'm sure that we can look at keeping it. That there just hasn't been presented so
Chair,
far.
I'm sorry, Councilwoman. Can we hear from the chair of the commission?
Yes. Chair, if you'll introduce yourself.
Yeah. Hey, I'm Max Bowder. I'm the chair of this commission. Do you want to ask about the quorum and that situation? We had quorum issues when we didn't have the full number of seats filled, right? So we've got 15 seats. And for a long time, we only had 11 members because there's people resigned, and we just haven't had all of them filled, right? So for a long time, we just didn't have everybody. Since we've had everybody, we haven't had an issue. And we've really only had one time where our meeting was delayed that I can remember, and I'll go back and I'll look at all the attendance and do the numbers, send them to you if you want. And one time where we had to end early because of quorum.
So my understanding is that the commission also worked on or responded to the suggestions from the working group. So is there any position by the commission or your personal take on the changes that have been presented
Yeah.
in this legislation?
For sure. So we discussed all of this at our last meeting. I would say overwhelmingly, people did not understand the reduction of the size of the commission. We do have a great group of people, and we've gotten a lot of stuff done in the time we've had, setting this up from scratch. And we have a variety of experience that's been really helpful to have. And then in regard to the mayor's office part of it, I mean, I could talk about this for like 3 hours, so I'm happy to talk about it after this. But the
High points.
the high points is that this is, you know, right now we have a mayor's office of film and special events that's under the mayor's office, and it's actually not doing what the code says it should be doing, and that's part of this, right? So it's like, and we've had that since 1993, and it started off really well with 3 employees, and then a new administration came in, and it changed. They took everybody out, put new people in. And then 4 years later, that next mayor reduced the size of it. And it went from 3 employees fully funded to 2 to 1 to like half 1. And right now, we have people that are NDOT employees that handle the permitting, but that's it. And not a few other things that are actually in the code for that office, right? And so that's all, the reason that it's all got reinvigorated is to try to get an office that was functioning together. So, sorry.
Come to you in a second. Chair Evans.
I just wanted to ask Mr. Butler, so I feel like I've heard, and maybe it's been in some of the emails, that the question about were you surveyed? Were you surveyed? Was your board surveyed?
I received an email from the working group that I responded to. And I saw the statistics where it said like 73% of the people that responded said their board was the right size. So I don't know the specifics for ours though.
So we don't know like what you said 73%.
That's something that I saw online, 73%. I don't know, I think I saw it, the number from the survey from the working group that said, yeah.
I could go back and look at the boards.
Okay.
I have no, I just saw
I'm
like
just
a
curious
general.
about like the response rate and, you know.
Yeah, I didn't even talk to anybody on the commission about it, actually, about that survey.
For the sake of making this conversation a little more efficient, I'm going to go to Councilmember Stiles to talk on the substitute.
Thank you so much, because I actually have 2 presentations. So, in a nutshell, the substitute takes this back to the original formation of the commission. For those of you that are second termers, you remember that this was 18 months of work, a lot of community engagement. There was no community engagement in the legislation that was put forth to you right now. This body did not know. I was there for a meeting in December where they discussed the changes that they wanted submitted. On your desk, when you go into the chamber, you will see the legislation that came from the one lawyer that's sitting on the commission. It's on your desk. It doesn't have anything to do about reducing the size, taking their power away for hiring, and getting rid of subcommittees. None of that was in there. The legislation that was submitted to you was never returned to them to say this is what we're submitting. It was just given to the working group and then given to the council office. I think if we're making changes, we need to look and see what each commission is doing. We cannot unilaterally just say we want smaller boards and commissions and then just come up with an arbitrary number. There is a reason why this commission is the size that it is. Over multiple conversations, there were several, at least I think 4 bills before we finally got this done. What we landed on, at one point I had 19, I compromised, came down to 15, and then at the end, the final suggestion that was made was to add another 4 ex officio members. They don't vote. So really this is a body of 15. They are in the midst right now of doing the hiring process. To do this to them in the midst of this, when you have received emails, not only today, but for those of you that are second termers, we were inundated with support for this office to not be controlled by any mayoral administration because it's inconsistent for this body. Memphis has had the same person for 25 years. And it works wonderfully. If we put this in the mayor's office, there has been a Music City Music Council, there has been an attempt at a film commission, a TV situation. They've all failed because mayoral administrations have changed and they've not had the same priority. So that is the goal and the reason why this was to be this way. The previous administration was good with this, the creation of the commission, the creation of the office. So suddenly for there to be issues, I believe is a personal preference. It's not really based in reason, because we would have heard about it at some point in the 18 or so months that we worked on this. So in our previous meeting, we ended up deferring this.
For how long?
1 meeting. so that people, I mean, our committee had some questions. So I want you all to be able to talk to commissioners and so forth. I think everyone needs to be aware of what's happening because it really came out of the blue. And it would make sense. I'm good with a one meeting deferral if you all so choose. Okay, thank you so much.
I'm gonna go to Councilmember Johnson first.
So I'm pretty agnostic on the number of members. I think there's a great amount of work that's going on right now, but as we go through time, and this is a gradual reduction, I think you're gonna end up with probably some quorum issues because there's just not gonna be the most, right now it's pretty exciting, but honestly, I don't really care about that. As far as the mayor hiring or not, I think what everybody needs to understand is that another mayoral administration can come in and not have the priority and defund this particular deal. So it really doesn't matter who hires the director. The priorities of the administration will be handled with the purse strings. So I don't necessarily like an appointed body making hiring decisions where taxpayer dollars are being allocated. I do think that it's very important for the commission to have a voice in that, but that the final decision should come from the mayor. And the subcommittee thing that bothers me. To have random people that are not on the commission be able to make decisions and recommendations to the body, to me, is out of line. If you are going to be making recommendations, if you're going to be working on a subcommittee, you should be on the committee. And so I'm hoping that in this one meeting deferral, which I totally support, and I will make that motion, or somebody will, because we got some other people who want to talk, but I'm hoping that in this one meeting deferral that we can maybe fix those things.
I'm open to that.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
I make a motion for a one meeting deferral.
Okay.
Simply just move it along.
Okay, yeah.
Moved and properly seconded. Is there any discussion on the one meeton deferral?
No.
Chair, is that fair?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay, great.
All right, the question on the floor is that we,
One meeting
One
deferral.
meeting deferral.
thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? We've got 8 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for a one meeting deferral.
Oh, and now we're going back to.
Yes. So now we're going back to the, to interviews for the Sustainability Advisory Committee appointment of Catherine Armwood for a term expiring on March 14th, 2026. Thank you for being here, Ms. Armwood. Would you like a parking validation?
Yes, please.
Okay. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
Yes.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being appointed to here today?
No.
So tell us a little bit about why you want to serve.
Currently, I work as the Associate Dean for Tennessee State University. In the College of Engineering, we've been doing a lot of work around sustainability and environmental impact efforts, working with the community and some of our companies, trying to figure out best ways to build resiliency through power grids and how to work with some of our national labs and bring in resiliency practices and sustainability practices locally. And so I recently worked on submitting an EPA proposal, which included some of our community leaders along with some of Metro Nashville, NES, all those, trying to figure out a way to provide resiliency within North Nashville kind of area a little further. And worked with Kendra that leads the board, and she kind of alerted me of the opportunity to come work on this board. I wasn't familiar beforehand, but after doing some research, I feel like it aligns with some of the principles and work that I'm doing currently.
Absolutely, it definitely sounds like it. Also, let me apologize for not giving you the proper title, Dr. Armwood.
No, thank you.
You should have corrected him.
The
You worked hard for
100%,
that.
yes. So, yes, anybody feel free to correct me at any point. So, yeah, I feel like your experience speaks for itself, and your passion clearly comes through, because I think sustainability is definitely one of those issues that we need to be addressing in all the areas of metro government. So, yeah. Any questions from the committee? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? So we've got 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting. Thank you so much, Dr.
Thank you.
Armwood.
You guys have a wonderful.
Thank you so much.
All right, next we have the Zoning Appeals Board reappointment of Christina Karpnik.
You're close.
Okay.
Yes, very good.
How do you pronounce it?
Carpenter.
Karpnik.
And I love a cooking time.
Oh, perfect, yes. And this is for a term expiring on December 15th, 2030. Are you currently a Davidson County resident?
I am.
And do you serve on any other boards or commissions other than what you're being reappointed to here today?
I do not.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about why you want to continue serving.
Well, several reasons. One, like all of you, public service is very important. And excuse me, I've had a little congestion, so hopefully you can hear me okay. And another reason is it's really inspiring to see all the people of Davidson County come in and speak to the board about what seems like a boring topic, land use. It's very interesting, and when people come and speak to us, it's very inspiring. So I've really enjoyed that. And also I'm a licensed architect, so I bring that experience to the board. We have only one other licensed architect on the board, and we need someone. We need two of us on the board. There's a great mix of board members, some attorneys, formal council member, and a builder. So we need a wide variety of experience. And I'm losing my voice.
Yes, no, you're more than all right.
Now I'm waiting for your difficult question.
Yes. I guess, so just based off of your experience on the board previously, are there any areas that you feel the board can improve upon in addressing issues that folks are bringing to the board as far as like having zoning issues having been previously denied or so forth?
Yeah, it's zoning is very difficult to understand. Fences. Fences. The fence.
Yes.
Yes. Joey Hargis would love to have fences being permitted. That would save a lot of. He may have been to you all about that.
Yes.
But that's a big one, and just again, zoning's hard to understand. So any kind of like more public outreach, I don't know how that would happen, but. One thing we did when the STRPs were difficult to understand that you needed a permit, there was something that was put when we get our property taxes. We get a little notice, you probably have all seen that. And it talked about how you need a permit for an STRP. And I thought that was helpful, so maybe it's, you know, like again, it's a zoning is specialized and you really need people that understand it. But it is hard when the community comes to us and they have misunderstood the zoning code, and or the community members come maybe in opposition to something and they think we're the planning commission, and it's just hard. We try to educate them during the meeting about processes. So I don't know how to improve that other than us trying to tell people, but it's wish I could think of something better.
I mean, that's very fair, so yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So kind of on that, like, where does public input or testimony come into play with the BZA, and when is it like not relevant? Or when do you have to make decisions that really, or to what extent do you have to make decisions that really don't matter about what people are saying about it? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Is there a balance that you have to find there, or is it really heavily one or the other?
Yes, I would say it's when people come to us and they think that something shouldn't be built somewhere, but someone has the right to do it, they really need to go before the planning commission, except the property is already zoned for a certain use, so we can't stop that use. So we do listen to, and it's only, I guess, in opposition, it's only 10 minutes of testimony of people that come before us wanting something not to be built, a church, usually it's a church, and not wanting to be built in their neighborhood. And but that's actually not, doesn't have to do with rezoning, but there are some certain things that we can't stop, and we have to listen, and we try to educate them, and it's hard on them, but we have to, we are set just to look at 4 different types of cases, and we're set by what the law tells us to do. And
are there instances where public testimony does make a difference? And
there is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there is. Trying to think of a good example. Not one is coming to mind, but I mean there is definitely value in coming before us and providing testimony.
Anything further from the committee? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? Got 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting.
Thank
so
you.
much. All right, next we've got boards and commission confirmations. Candidates in this category will be subject to to a recommendation vote by the Rules Confirmation and Public Elections Committee and confirmed by the council. I will read these into the agenda. Is there anything that anybody wishes to discuss individually? We'll take them up as one vote. Okay, first is the Human Relations Commission appointment of Kara Ince for a term expiring on July 21st, 2025. The Solid Waste Region Board reappointment of Demita Beck-Taylor for a term expiring on December 15th, 2030. And the Transportation and Licensing Commission appointment of William Allen Sloan. Is it Sloan or Stone?
It's Sloan.
Because it was, well,
I think it's Sloan.
It was written wrong last time, but.
Right, I think it's right now.
Okay. William Allen Sloan for a term expiring on October 10th, 2026.
Is the date correct on, that's like 5 months away
Yeah,
for
probably.
the Human Relations Commission? That's correct?
Probably.
It was for a, yes, so they'll have to come back up again.
Okay.
Someone resigned, so they were
Oh,
just
they're
filling-
filling the end of the term. Okay, sorry. Got it, just wanna make sure.
Of course. Any further discussion on these matters? We'll take up a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any not voting? Got 7 in favor, 0 against, 0 not voting for all 3. We come now to the adjournment. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Moved and properly seconded. Without objection, we do now stand adjourned.